Under the soft hum of the night, Thomas Grayson sat in his dimly lit study, the glow of his laptop screen reflecting off the glass of the bourbon in his hand. He was a man the world envied, a millionaire with sprawling estates, thriving businesses, and a name that commanded respect in every boardroom he entered. But beyond the glimmer of his success lay a silence he couldn't fill. His mansion, once alive with laughter, had grown eerily quiet since his wife passed away 2 years earlier. His 2 children, Emily and Noah, both under 12, slept down the hall, or so he believed. Yet something had unsettled him for weeks. Small noises in the dead of night, faint shadows on the stairs, and whispers he couldn't explain. Out of worry and a creeping unease, he decided to install hidden cameras throughout the house, not because he didn't trust his kids, but because he couldn't bear the thought of them being unsafe while he drowned in late-night loneliness. The cameras were top of the line, linked to his phone and laptop, streaming every corner of the house in crisp night vision. For the first few nights, nothing happened beyond the ordinary. Emily rolled in her sleep clutching her mother's old teddy bear, while Noah often kicked his blanket off, leaving it tangled at his feet. Thomas watched for a while, comforted by the quiet rhythm of their breathing, before shutting his laptop each night. But on the 7th night, everything changed. It was 3:04 a.m. when a faint alert from the system buzzed on his phone. One of the motion sensors had triggered in the living room. Half asleep, he tapped open the feed, expecting to see one of the kids sneaking in for water. What he saw instead made his blood run cold. There, standing near the couch, was a figure. Tall, hooded, motionless. Thomas blinked, his hand tightening around the glass until it nearly slipped. The figure wasn't one of his security guards, and it definitely wasn't either of the kids. For a moment, it didn't move, just stood in the pale wash of the moonlight filtering through the curtains. Then, slowly, it turned its head toward the hallway leading to the kids' rooms. Thomas's heart pounded against his ribs. He jumped up, nearly tripping over the rug, fumbling for the security app to activate the alarm system. But before he could, something stopped him. The figure crouched down, gently picking up a small blanket that had fallen on the floor. He zoomed in on the feed, breath held. The person draped the blanket over the couch, where Noah sometimes napped during the day, and then disappeared toward the kitchen. Thomas's mind was a storm. Was someone living inside his home? A thief? A stalker? He called the cops immediately, his voice low and shaking. Within minutes, 2 patrol cars were on their way. He rushed to the hallway, baseball bat in hand, but when he pushed open his kid's door, they were sound asleep, untouched, peaceful. The sound of sirens grew louder in the distance. He returned to his study, heart hammering, staring at the screen as the officers entered the house. For the next half hour, they searched every corner, attic to basement. Nothing. No signs of entry. No footprints. No open windows. Yet Thomas knew what he saw. When the officers left, assuring him it might have been a glitch, he sat in silence, replaying the footage over and over. But this time, as he zoomed closer on the stranger's face, his world tilted on its axis. The figure wasn't a man. It was a woman. Her eyes, though blurry in the night vision, were hauntingly familiar. Something deep inside him recognized them. Shaking, he switched cameras, rewinding several nights back, and there she was again, moving through the house with a kind of quiet tenderness. She wasn't stealing. She wasn't hiding. She was watching, over his children, covering them with blankets, whispering things he couldn't hear. Tears welled in his eyes when he saw her pause beside Emily's bed, gently brushing the girl's hair from her face, the way his wife once did. He froze. The resemblance was too close, too impossible. His wife, Lila, had died 2 years ago in a car crash. He had identified her body himself. But this woman, this ghostly figure, moved with the same grace, the same love. He didn't know whether he was losing his mind or if something divine was unfolding in his home. Determined to uncover the truth, Thomas stayed awake the next night, every muscle tense, every light off. The clock ticked past midnight. At 3:03, he saw movement again, this time near the back door. Quietly, he stepped into the hallway, barefoot, following the faint shuffle of footsteps. The moonlight poured through the glass panes as he peeked into the kitchen. There she was, real, flesh and blood. Not a ghost, not a hallucination. A woman, young but weary, dressed in a faded hoodie, holding a half-eaten sandwich in trembling hands. She froze when she saw him. "Please, don't call the police," she whispered, voice cracking. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to scare anyone." Thomas stood speechless. His instinct screamed to protect his kids, but something in her eyes, a raw, broken sadness, rooted him in place. "Who are you?" he asked quietly, lowering the bat he'd brought. "My name's Anna," she said, her voice barely audible. "I used to work here, for your wife." Before the accident, the memory hit him like a wave. Lila's charity projects, the shelters she supported, the staff she quietly helped, Anna had been one of them. Lila had hired her as a housemaid after finding her living in her car with a newborn. But after Lila's death, Thomas had fallen apart, shutting down everything connected to her, including the small staff she'd once called family. Tears filled Anna's eyes. "I didn't have anywhere to go. My son, he's 6 now. We've been living near the woods behind the property. She swallowed hard. "I just wanted to make sure your kids were safe. Lila always said they were my family too." Thomas felt something inside him crack wide open. The anger, the loneliness, the guilt, all of it came flooding out. He had spent years shutting the world out, believing money could guard his pain. But here was a woman, broken and unseen, risking her freedom just to protect the children who weren't even hers. He lowered the bat completely and motioned her to sit. That night, they talked until dawn. Anna told him about losing her job after Lila's death, about trying to keep her son warm during winters, about sneaking into the house only when she knew the kids were asleep, just to leave food, tuck them in, and make sure no harm ever came to them. She had even fixed a leaking window one night and replaced a broken bulb in the hallway without anyone noticing. Every act of kindness had gone unseen, until now. When the first light of morning touched the kitchen, Thomas made a decision that would change all their lives. He walked Anna to the back porch, where the frost glistened on the grass, and said softly, "You're not hiding anymore. You're coming inside, both of you." Her knees gave out as she shook her head. "I can't. The police. I called them," he said. "I'll tell them the truth. You were never a threat. You were family all along." True to his word, when the police returned to follow up, Thomas stood by her side and explained everything. The officers listened, their hardened expressions softening with each word. They let her go with a warning, understanding that no crime had truly been committed, only an act of love. That night, Thomas prepared 2 extra bedrooms. Anna's son, Ethan, clung shyly to his mother's leg when they arrived, his eyes wide with wonder at the grand house. Emily and Noah, at first hesitant, soon warmed to him. Within weeks, the mansion that had felt so empty for so long filled again with laughter, footsteps, and warmth. For Thomas, life slowly transformed. He reopened Lila's charity foundation, naming Anna as its co-director. Together, they expanded it to help single mothers and homeless families across the state. Every decision he made now came from a place of gratitude rather than guilt. Money, he realized, could build walls or bridges, and he was done living behind walls. Months later, one quiet night, Thomas stood by the same monitor that had once shown him fear. This time, it displayed a live feed of the kitchen, Anna laughing as the kids baked cookies, flour dusting their faces, Ethan feeding the dog scraps under the table. He smiled through tears, whispering to the screen, "You were right, Lila. Family isn't always blood. Sometimes, it's the ones who show up when the world forgets to." He shut the laptop and stepped into the hallway, where the scent of cookies drifted like a memory of joy reborn. For the first time in years, he didn't dread the silence of night, because there was none left. Every corner of his home now echoed with life, love, and the gentle hum of second chances. And though the cameras still rolled, Thomas no longer checked them out of fear, but out of gratitude. Because one woman's hidden kindness had reminded him of everything he'd lost, and everything he could still build. He had installed cameras to watch over his children, but what he truly discovered was humanity, the kind that watches over us all, quietly, selflessly, without ever asking for anything in return. That night, before he turned off the lights, he looked toward the stars and whispered a simple prayer of thanks. Not for wealth, not for security, but for the grace of being seen by kindness when he had forgotten how to see it himself. And in that quiet prayer, somewhere deep in his heart, he felt his wife's presence again, soft, proud, and at peace, watching over them all.